Good evening. I'm Alan Joins, Mayor of Winston-Salem. It's my pleasure to call to order this March 6th meeting of the Winston-Salem City Council, and I'd ask the city clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Larson.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Mundy.
Present.
Councilmember Scipio.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Present.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Here.
And Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Thank you very much. Would you please join the city council and me in a moment of silence? Thank you so much. And would you join the city council and me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I'd like to recognize our Sergeant at Arms tonight, it's Lieutenant Charles Olivio. How's them saying it? Olivo. That's close. Thank you, Lieutenant, for being with us tonight. Tonight, we need to start the meeting off. We have two honorariums that we need to go through, so may we have item H1, please.
Item H1, proclamation declaring the month of March 2023 as Developmental Disability Awareness Month. Whereas a developmental disability is a diverse group of chronic conditions that are due to mental and physical impairments that arise before adulthood, and whereas the condition is likely to continue indefinitely and limits the individual in 3 or more of the following areas: self-care, receptive and expressive language, learning, mobility, self-direction, capacity for independent living, and economic self-sufficiency. And whereas the condition creates the individual's need for a combination of special interdisciplinary services, individualized person-centered supports, and other forms of long-term assistance that are individually planned and coordinated. And whereas the disability experience is a natural part of life and is valued as a part of our rich diversity. And whereas disability is a social construct, the problem is not the medical condition that resides within the individual, but the problem is that society does not create welcoming, supportive, and inclusive environments, policies, and/or systems for all to promote equality and acceptance in all areas of life, including schools, places of employment, and in our communities. And whereas the most effective way to increase awareness is through everyone's openness to learn and acknowledgement that there are systemic barriers that reduce the likelihood of those with disabilities enjoying equitable experiences and living independent, productive lives within their communities. And whereas policies must be developed, attitudes shaped, and equitable experiences are offered to all individuals, including those with developmental disabilities. And whereas citizens should do all in their power to recognize the value of the disability experience in our lives and the valued role it has in our rich diversity, recognize the barriers presented to those with disabilities across all aspects of their lives, create ways to include everyone, especially those with developmental disabilities, to be fully included in all aspects of life, understand the losses, financial, spiritual, human rights, contributions to community, and otherwise, when our communities segregate and create barriers for those with disabilities. Demand policymakers no longer invest in segregation and create inclusive, equitable policies and systems for all. Now, therefore, I, J. Allen Joins, Mayor of the City of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim March 2023 as Developmental Disability Awareness Month.
Thank you very much. And with us tonight is Ms. Cheryl Gales, the Supported Employment Manager. Ms. Gales, if you come forward, I'll present this to you. On behalf of the City of Winston-Salem, our City Council, we are happy to bring attention to the issue of Development Disability Month and all that you're doing to make sure our citizens can fully enjoy all that we have to offer. So I'll present this to you.
Thank you so much.
If you'd like to say a word, please feel free.
We greatly appreciate your kindness in letting us adopt this proclamation, and we appreciate all you're doing for inclusion in our community. Thank you again. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. May we have item H2?
Item H2, proclamation declaring the month of March 2023 as Red Cross Month. Whereas March is American Red Cross Month, a time to thank our everyday heroes who reach out to help neighbors in need. And whereas across the country and around the world, the American Red Cross has responded to house fires, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and wildfires, including the Weaver Fertilizer Plant Fire, California storms and floods, southern tornadoes, Turkey earthquake, and an ongoing response to the Hurricane Ian in Florida. And whereas Red Cross heroes are on the front lines every day, volunteering their time, giving blood, taking life-saving courses, and/or providing financial donations. And whereas they offer around-the-clock support to members of the military, veterans, and their families, and teach life-saving classes in CPR, water safety, and first aid. And whereas we would like to remember our heroes here in Winston-Salem who work tirelessly to help in times of disaster. And whereas we dedicate the month of March to all those who support the Red Cross mission to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies. Now, therefore, I, J. Allen Joines, Mayor of the City of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim March 2023 as Red Cross Month.
Thank you very much. And with us tonight is Heather Frazee, who's the Executive Director of the Red Cross. Again, on behalf of the City Council and the City of Winston-Salem, we're happy to help bring attention to the great work that the Red Cross does, not only for our community, but across the state and the country. I know he was mentioned the Weaver Fire, and certainly Mayor Pro Tem Adams can vouch for that work that you folks did up there and helped us with that situation. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you so much for your partnership and this acknowledgement. And I just want to take a moment to recognize some of our everyday heroes that are sitting here. These are our volunteers that are out there responding to fires, helping with blood donations, and transporting life-saving blood every day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tonight's agenda, the City Council is comprised of the following. We have ordinances reviewing the certificates of public convenience and necessity. We have 4 ordinances authorizing the issuance of those certificates of public convenience and necessity. We have 1 zoning petition. We have an item authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds and other financing instruments. And we have 1 economic development assistance package. Several of these items are listed as public hearings, and when these public hearings are called, persons in the council chamber will be given an opportunity to speak. If no one wishes to speak, I'll close the public hearing, and the City Council will consider the item. If there's opposition to the zoning public hearing item, proponents and the opponents will each be given 15 minutes for presentations and 3 minutes for rebuttal. If no one wishes to speak, of course, I'll close the public hearing, and the council will consider the zoning item. We're televising this meeting live tonight on TV 13, and it will be replayed tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. and tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Copies of our agenda, as well as videos of previous meetings, are always available online at the city's website, www.cityofws.org, and just click on the Watch Meetings Online option. May we have item Z1, please?
Item Z1, second reading on ordinance authorizing the issuance of a certificate of public convenience and necessity to Elder Up for the operation of 3 limousines in the City of Winston-Salem, recommended by Public Safety Committee, public hearing held on February 6, 2023.
Recognize our chairman of our Public Safety Committee, Councilmember James Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, I move for approval of item Z1.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor, please vote yes, and anyone opposed, vote no. And that's unanimous. Thank you. Item Z2.
Item Z2, second reading on ordinance authorizing the issuance of a certificate of public convenience and necessity to Royal Transportation for the operation of 1 limousine in the City of Winston-Salem, recommended by Public Safety Committee and public hearing held February 6, 2023.
Again, I recognize Councilmember Taylor.
I move for approval of item Z2.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you. Item Z3.
Item Z3, second reading on ordinance authorizing the issuance of a certificate of public convenience and necessity to Morris Transportation Services, LLC, for the operation of 2 limousines in the city of Winston-Salem, recommended by Public Safety Committee, public hearing held on February 6, 2023.
Again, Councilmember Taylor.
I move for approval of item Z3.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Any discussion? Not all those in favor indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you. Item Z4.
Item Z4, second reading on ordinance authorizing the issuance of a certificate of public convenience and necessity to Allegiance Transportation, LLC, for the operation of 10 limousines in the city of Winston-Salem, recommended by Public Safety Committee.
Again, Councilmember Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. Last time, I move for approval of item Z4.
Second. Motion second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Item Z5.
Item Z5, public hearing on zoning petition of Janet Hunter Frank, David Hill Hunter, Carol Auspaw Denton, Ann Auspaw Davis, estate of Eben Wharton Auspaw, and Jane B. Whittingham, W3563, from RS9 and RM12 to RM18. Property is located in the Southwest Ward. Planning Board recommends approval of petition.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the council chamber who is opposed to this rezoning? I know the petitioner's here if there's any questions. All right, seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and I recognize Councilmember Mundy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move for approval of one statement of consistency for the approval of this item and 2 W3563.
Second. Motion and second. Any discussion of this item? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you, Councilmember Mundy. Item Z6.
Item Z6, consideration of items relating to general obligation bonds.
I'd like to ask our Chief Financial Officer, Kelly Latham, to give us a brief presentation of what we're doing in the next several items. Ms. Latham?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and members of the City Council. This action completes the process for City Council to issue $8.895 million in 2/3 general obligation bonds, as well as $55 million in general obligation bonds that were authorized by the voters in 2018. In your previous information item in regards to the $55 million, it was just one issue. However, in conversations with our bond attorneys, normally we will issue the housing and economic development bonds as taxable, just to give the City Council more flexibility in those projects. So that's why you will see that there is $7.5 million is a Series C, and that issue would be taxable. In your original packet, I did inadvertently leave out the bond orders that you'll be voting on this evening, so you should have printed copies of those bond orders at your station. The next step would be for the City Council to conduct a public hearing on each of the bond orders, and then after each public hearing, adopt the bond order, and then there's an additional resolution that we would ask City Council to adopt to actually issue to actually allow the city to issue the debt upon approval by the LGC.
Thank you, Ms. Latham. Any questions, Ms. Latham, about these financing tools? Thank you. All right, we'll then go to item Z6A.
Item Z6A, public hearing on bond order authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $3,250,000 street and sidewalk bonds of the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in council chamber who would like to be heard on this issuance of $3.250 million for street and sidewalk bonds? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion on the item. Mr. Clerk.
I have all the motions for this.
Good.
I move for approval of item Z6A. Second.
Motion second. Any discussion or questions? Not all those in favor, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you. Item Z6B.
Item Z6B, public hearing on bond order authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $1,760,000 park and recreation bonds of the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the council chamber who wishes to be heard on this issuance of $1,760,000 of parks and recreation bonds? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Recognize Councilmember Clark.
I move approval of item Z6B.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. That is unanimous. Thank you. Item Z6C.
Item Z6C, public hearing on bond order authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $985,000 public safety bonds of the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Again, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the council chamber who'd like to be heard on this issuance of $985,000 of public safety bonds? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and recognize Councilmember Clark.
I move for approval of item Z6C.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you. And Z6D.
Item Z6D, public hearing on bond order authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $2,900,000 public facilities improvements bonds of the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the council chamber who'd like to be heard on this proposed issuance of $2,900,000 of public facilities improvement bonds for the city? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Recognize Councilmember Clark.
I move for approval of item Z6D.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Item Z7.
Item Z7, resolution regarding the issuance of $8,895,000 2/3 general obligation bonds, Series A, $47,500,000 general obligation bonds, Series B, and $7,500,000 taxable general obligation bonds, Series C, for the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Thank you, Councilmember Clark.
Yes, I move for approval of item Z7.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Item Z8.
Item Z8, public hearing on resolution approving economic development assistance for Project Oyster pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 158-7.1, recommended by Finance Committee.
Recognize Mr. Ken Millett to give us a brief presentation on the item we're considering tonight. Mr.
Yes,
Millett.
sir. Good evening, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and members of council.
Good evening.
This is a project that we spoke about in closed session and at Finance Committee, referring to it only as Project Oyster. So we are sharing this evening that it is an economic development project that involves Tex Tech Industries. Tex Tech is headquartered in Kernersville and manufactures specialty textiles serving aerospace and defense, medical, automotive, and apparel industries. The company currently has 265 employees in 4 states. Tex Tech has recently acquired a California company and is looking to expand manufacturing operations on the East Coast. It's currently evaluating Winston-Salem and the state of Maine, where it currently operates 2 facilities. The company is seeking financial assistance to reduce its capital outlay associated with the new facility. Tex Tech would create 59 jobs within 5 years at an average salary of $64,000. Capital investment over the first 5 years of the project is expected to total $41.7 million, including construction of a new 170,000 square foot building off Old Lexington Road. If Winston-Salem is selected, this investment is expected to generate $1.1 million in net new property tax revenue over the first 5 years. The attached resolution authorizes the city to provide up to $554,908 in performance-based economic development assistance. This is equal to 50% of the net new property tax revenue expected to be generated over the first 5 years. Last week, Forsyth County did approve incentives for the project that totaled $563,338, and incentives are also being considered by the state of North Carolina. We have Laura Lee and Ellis Kiefer with Greater Winston-Salem here in support of the project.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Millett? I know we've discussed this at least twice. Thank you, Mr. Millett. This is a public hearing. Would anyone in the council chamber like to be heard on this item? Ms. Lee, please. If you would, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and members of council. Laura Lee with Greater Winston-Salem, Inc., and we are now at 525 Vine Street in Innovation Quarter, so I had to remember my new address. I wanted to thank you so much for your support of this project and the opportunity to create high-quality jobs in the city of Winston-Salem. We're excited about the opportunity for Project Oyster to continue their legacy as a company in our community, and we are grateful for their commitment here. We do have an executive from the company who is present if you have any questions. I'm also happy to answer anything you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Any questions of Mrs. Lee? Thank you. And to the representative of Tech, we're glad to have you with us. And more importantly, we're glad to have your company in our community. And thank you for this opportunity for growth there. So with that, I will close the public hearing and recognize Councilmember McIntyre.
I did just want to point out, it's 36 degrees in Maine right now.
Thank you. Good point. I would, this did come out of finance, and Councilmember Clark.
I move for approval of item Z8.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Again, thank you. We look forward to having your expansion in our community.
You're here.
Council members, as you know, we do have a need for a closed session to discuss a real estate matter, and I would recognize, I believe Councilmember Clark's got that motion as well.
Before I read the motion, I do want to make a comment to Mr. Assad sitting out there. He asked me earlier before the meeting started about closed session. We did have a personnel matter to consider tonight that was canceled, so I assumed the whole closed session was canceled, but we do actually have a real estate matter too. So I apologize if I misspoke, but I just learned about this very recently. I move that the Winston-Salem City Council go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A5 to provide instructions to staff regarding the acquisition of property at 725 Walltown Street, tax number 6834-86-5505, for the creation of an intake center to make services more accessible to the homeless.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second to go into closed session. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, no. We'll go into closed session.
All right. Oh, let's go wrong seat.
Is there a motion to end the closed session?
I move that we close the closed session.
Second.
Second. All those in favor of ending closed session, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. We're back in open session. Is there a motion to
I
adjourn?
move for adjournment.
Second, okay. We have a motion by Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, seconded by Councilmember Burke to adjourn. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.